Alright, the Pokemon hobby is changing, and the Pokemon investing is also going to change with it. Today, we're going to be talking about what you can expect with the Pokemon investing in the near future as Sword and Shield runs out of stock. Let's get after it right after this. Alright, I'm Andy with Northwoods TCG, and today we're going to be talking about Pokemon investing and what can we expect with Pokemon investing as Sword and Shield products continue to sell out on Pokemon Center and continue to raise in price very quickly. These are all going to be things that we need to consider as these products continue to disappear. So today we're going to be taking a little bit of a trip down the rabbit hole, talking about what we can expect when it comes down to your Pokemon investing, and also what can we be looking for and what are some of these pitfalls that we may see with these particular items in the near future, and of course other things that could cause pitfalls in the Pokemon TCG as a collecting community. So today we're going to break that down a little bit. So the first thing I want to discuss is, as you can see over and over and over again right now, Pokemon Center is selling out of Sword and Shield booster boxes. Now booster boxes are first. They're disappearing very quickly. They have become the short print item of the Pokemon TCG in the Sword and Shield era. They printed a lot fewer booster boxes than they did ETBs, and it shows. Pricing of ETBs is not increased as heavily as it has in the past, back in Sun and Moon, XY, or even when they first came out in black and white. So does that mean that ETBs are going to be around forever? There's a very good possibility. ETBs might be readily available for a long period of time. Does that mean that they won't have value? No, not necessarily. I think that ETBs will have value eventually. It's just going to take time for that market to continue to chew through these items and these products that are still available, and how many of them are still available in the open market. As booster boxes pricing continues to increase in price, as will the ETB pricing as well. What's going to happen is that they will eventually disappear off Pokemon Center. They will eventually just kind of disappear off the shelves of your local big stores such as Walmart and Target and GameStop. And as this occurs, of course, over time, pricing will increase on them. It's just going to be natural. It's just going to take time. That's one factor that we have to consider when it comes down to some of the products. Do I think that all products are good products to purchase? Not necessarily, but I think that if you buy ETBs, if you buy booster boxes, six-pack bundles, even built-in battle bundles and things like that that are very condensed and particular to that set, I think they'll do well over time. Once again, people are looking for specific products or people are looking for specific products, and they're looking for specific packs. And if you can condense those down to a booster box form, ETB, or of course like six-pack bundles where people know that they're getting those packs and not having to buy like a V box, an EX box with multiple packs from multiple sections, some good, some bad, some that were high performing, some that were low performing, I think that those will always have a better value. But there are definitely ways to look ahead on that particular stuff. Maybe ETBs are a thing to buy. You can still buy them on TikTok. I put them in the last video, and maybe I'll put them down a couple links down below. You can buy them under $30 still for Lost Origins, for Silver Tempest, for Astral Radiance, and I've even seen some Brilliant Stars around $32, $33 for those particular ETBs currently on TikTok, plus coupons and things that come up on TikTok. There's definitely some great opportunities to get these at a reasonable price and really jump in on something as the booster box prices continue to just go up like crazy. So overall, ETBs, definitely going to be probably seeing some raise on those as they continue to sell out. We're just going to have to continue to watch Pokemon Center when it comes down to those. Now, what's going to happen over the next year even, as more and more of these products continue to sell out on Pokemon Center, as Sword and Shield products become more difficult to find, and as the pricing begins to increase on all of the Sword and Shield block. Let's just say all the booster boxes and ETBs have increased in price. Hypothetically, what's the next thing that you could probably expect? Well, the thing is that there's only so much expendable money that people can put into certain products. And the other part of it is selling these products and doing box breaks. You learn pretty quickly that individuals aren't necessarily looking at just buying something because it's a sealed product. Such as myself, I usually look at the value of a sealed product. What you learn is that there are a lot of individuals out there who care nothing about holding value or making sure that there's actual value in those. They just want to chase, and they're chasing cards, and they're chasing packs, and they're chasing the specific chase card in these sets, and they don't care about value, right? They're not looking at the value of how much does this booster box cost? How much is that value going to be? We don't know, and that's just it. You're not going to know what the value of these are going to be, and they don't care. They're not looking at that. They're just simply looking at the chase. They want a chase card, and they'll spend the money to get the chase card. And that is probably one of the bigger factors that's continuing to drive this particular market. We're seeing it with Lost Origins still. We're seeing it with Brilliant Stars, Fusion Strike, all of these sets, even Evolving Skies, guys. I can sell Evolving Skies packs at $12 a pack, and nobody really questions it because they're chasing that Umbreon, and that chase continues. Is that going to be the same with Brilliant Stars? Is that going to be the same with Lost Origins? Yes, I think that these trends are going to continue. But there is going to be that lower-end consumer, that consumer that can't afford to pay $12 for a pack. That is where you could see packs like the beginning of Scarlet and Violet finally starting to get some traction. In the next year, could we see traction happening on some of these maybe lackluster sets from Scarlet and Violet? Some of the ones that we don't necessarily want to jump into, but we do see some value in them. There's some good chases in them. Paldea Evolve, perfect example. Some really good chase cards in there. Paradox Rift has some very nice cards. Do I think Temporal Forces is a strong? No, I don't think so. I think that they're lackluster comparatively to the two previous ones. Obsidian Flames, once again, catching traction and starting to look a little bit nicer since it was down around $85 a booster box, and now it's up to about $100 to $110. It's kind of bouncing in that range now. As the pricing of these Sword and Shield booster boxes continue to go up, as they sell out on Pokemon Center, and we don't have that avenue to buy them at MSRP or less, they're going to be more and more draw to some of these, what we would call lackluster sets for the individuals who are big in Sword and Shield. We'll see these lackluster sets in Pokemon start to see some value, and some people starting to go for those chases because they are chasing the chase. That's what they want, is a chase card. They're not necessarily worried about the value of a booster box as much as they just want to have that for their particular collection, or they want to get one graded, or they want. And that's going to be the driving factor, and there's always different tiers for that want. How many people are willing to spend this much money is going to be relative to the amount of people who want to spend this much money, and it's always going to be a relative figure. So when it comes down to this overall expenditure and people concerned that Scarlet and Violet isn't going to perform very well, I still hear that over and over and over again. Yes, I will 100% agree with most people out there. Scarlet and Violet really has not had a big breakout, heavy, great set that everybody chases as of this date. Now, I'm not saying Pokemon 151. So Scarlet and Violet 151, Pokemon 151 is a holiday set. And yes, there's huge draw, there's huge demand, there's huge hype for that particular set. But when it comes down to it, the people, even myself, don't necessarily see that as a Scarlet and Violet set as much as it's a generational set. It's a first gen 151 set of Pokemon, and that's all that it is. That's all that we're considering it when we look at that particular set. Now, Scarlet and Violet, when I'm talking about a big breakout set, I'm talking about the actual playable sets, like the actual full sets that are out there and that you're going to be seeing with booster boxes, ETBs, six-pack bundles, all the fixings that come with those particular boxes. Those are the ones I'd really love to see a breakout set happen here in Scarlet and Violet that would maybe finally solidify this particular era of Pokemon as a contender for being an investment and having great value in those. Now, I still think that we're going to see people continuing to trickle into the Scarlet and Violet era. Are we going to see a lot of reprints of Scarlet and Violet products at this point in time? No, there's still plenty of it out there. It's still readily available even for playability, even though some sets are becoming very playable. Obsidian Flame being a good example of it. Charizards are relatively cheap, and they're pretty easy to find. Same thing with the amount of product. The booster boxes are still really easy to find. They are not hard to get a hold of at this point in time, which to me means that Pokemon may decide not to reprint those particular sets. We've seen that with Pokemon, even in Scarlet and Violet, even in Sword and Shield, even in Sun and Moon. We've seen Pokemon just decide not to reprint particular sets because they just don't feel the demand's there, or the playability isn't there, and they can focus on the next set that has some playability to it that are interesting to, number one, collectors, number two, and most importantly, are players that are using that for the playability factor of these particular sets. So that's another thing to be considered into it. But overall, I think Scarlet and Violet's starting to show a little bit of movement. We're starting to see some SIRs starting to get some traction. We're starting to see some Illustrator Rares getting some traction and some value to them. We're continuing to see a little bit of growth ever so slowly in these particular sets. And overall, these sets really do and really are reminiscent to pre-boom of a Pokemon era. We're seeing nice, steady, organic growth. We're not getting the hype and foam shoot a set through the ceiling, and then it falls and crashes and then it has to recover and gets a lot of people in these traps. We're not seeing that as much in Scarlet and Violet, but we are seeing some decent organic growth. Base set, always going to be slow. Usually base sets are just those sets that they just don't really do really well, except for eventually they just go up in price because everything in that era does. But overall, base set definitely lackluster. We're still seeing some really good results in, like I said, Paldea and Evolve doing extremely well. We're seeing Obsidian Flame gaining because of the playability of that Charizard set. Paradox Rift, very, very nice chase when it comes down to it. Paldean Fates definitely looking strong. That Charizard is very, very nice and doing really well. There's also that beautiful Gardevoir card inside of there that looks really nice. It's a beautiful looking artwork in that particular card. So Paldean Fates definitely has that really great bang to that with that Bubble Mew on top of it. And last but not least, Temporal Forces. Yeah, a little bit lackluster. I don't think that the future ancient thing is catching on as well as maybe Pokemon thought that it would. I thought that maybe the futuristic ones and the ancient ones would get a little bit more boost, but they're just not catchy. Even for myself, I'm just not catching it. I'm really not feeling it as much as I did even with the Iron Valiant and the Roaring Moon and things like that. They were ancient, but they were familiarized. Even when you looked at Iron Valiant, it was just Gardevoir mixed in with Gallade, and it really was a fitting touch that they put into that particular card. So to me, it was acceptable. It looked really good. It was a really sharp looking card. I'm not feeling it with like Raging Bolt, and I'm not feeling it with Gouging Fire, and I'm not feeling it with the Iron Leaves and all those. I'm just not feeling that. They're just too weird. Walking Wake. I mean, it's not giving me the feel that I enjoy in those particular cards, which means to me they're probably not going to be a big collector's piece. They're not something that I'm going to necessarily go out of my way to buy. And I'm feeling like we're seeing that a lot when it comes down to Temporal Forces in general, and I think that that's going to hinder it overall. I am hoping that Twilight Masquerade kind of gets maybe away from that or keeps part of it in there, but starts going back more to the traditional Pokemon theme and the feel to it. I haven't had a good look at that set. Once again, I try to avoid looking at these sets prior to release, so I'm just talking from what I'm looking at and how I feel, is that I hope that Pokemon gets back into more of the traditional Pokemon and starts to phase out the future and ancient, like we've seen with Battle Styles and Fusion Strike. Is there's just that slow phase out and we get it out of the way. We get it out of the system. It's fun for a little bit to try something new for a couple sets. But let's get back into basics. Let's get back into traditional Pokemon. And let's really bang this out with something that's really strong. I'd really love to see a strong set. We got to get a new rarity here. So a new rarity would really pop this off. These kind of things are things that we should be looking forward to and hopefully we see very soon. And if we do, I feel if we get a new rarity in the Pokemon TCG and Scarlet and Violet, we'll really see a real big boost when it comes down to the actual Scarlet and Violet era. So overall, really good things, really good opportunities currently when it comes down, and we're still seeing good organic growth. We're seeing the normal comes out, drops a little bit, and then it kind of boosts back up as time moves on, which is a good thing. That tells me that we're in a really good, secure, safe market. Now, let's talk about one downside and some things that could really continue to hamper our overall market. At the end of the day, lay everything out. When you look at Pokemon, you have one of two things. You have A playable card game, and B, you have a collector set. The issue is that with the economy still, with inflation continuing to grow, with things continuing to become more difficult, when people are having to choose between buying a pack of Pokemon cards and buying food for the table, we're going to continue to kind of see this slump in Pokemon. From what I'm getting out of it and what I've talked to people in different areas, even people that have purchased from me in the past, even people that I meet and have known for years that have been big into Pokemon recently and have been for several years, they are slowing down on their purchases. People are not purchasing as many Pokemon products, not because they don't enjoy Pokemon, not because they don't want to, not that if they had a little expendable money or extra money that they wouldn't come back and start doing it again or getting more cards. It's the fact that it's getting too expensive and they have to make choices. And when these choices continue to happen, as inflation continues to move up, we could still see the correction in this Pokemon hobby. We could continue to see this downward push on the hobby. It's a collector's hobby, guys. It's a hobby. People have to choose between living and have to choose between a hobby. They're typically going to choose their living. At least I hope that they are personally. I'm not saying everybody will. Sometimes even when I'm on TikTok, it's one of the things that I hear quite often that sometimes makes me kind of cringe a little bit is when I hear individuals go, yeah, I can't buy anything today. I'll be on your next live when after I get paid. If you're to the point, honestly, where you're buying cards from paycheck to paycheck and you're waiting for that paycheck in order to buy cards, you should maybe reconsider things. And I'm happy to serve you and give you the cards if you're looking for them. But personally, I think that you should probably be looking at maybe banking some money and starting to build a little bit where you're not living that paycheck to paycheck for Pokemon cards. And once again, it's one of those things that we're going to continue to see that downward pressure until we see something really change in that inflation. Or number two, we do get some interest rate relief if they increase interest rates, because inflation is still not at that 2% mark that they wanted at. We're still at about 3.5 to 4. If that's going to continue to create an issue, then the feds could actually increase interest rates, which in turn could put more pressure on people because they got to pay more money for that vehicle that they have to replace. They have to do the extra money on the mortgage with these adjustable rate mortgages that are out there right now. People took these arms and thinking that they were going to get a really good deal on these interest rates, and now the interest rates are cramming up instead of actually assisting these people. And that's going to continue to take more money out of the family unit and out of the home, and actually put more stress on Pokemon as a collection, as a hobby, to be able to maintain the sales and the continued movements that we've seen in the past years. Now, not very interesting. And if there's anybody out here that wants to, I would love to have someone to just come on in a live and let's have a discussion about it. I would love to have someone with a discussionary on a live talking about different scenarios and different situations that we could see in the market and how that could affect Pokemon in the next 1 year and in the long term. It's all things that are really good discussion points when it comes down to everything that's going on in the hobby and how you can be have the best success in this hobby. How can you take advantage of these things and really get the best bang for your buck with the securities of knowing that things will do really well or give you the best chance of them doing well? Nobody knows 100%, but we can definitely hash it out and make discussions and actually put out different things that we could see being a problem and different things that could continue to be good for the hobby. So overall, hopefully this is some good discussionary points, something you guys to think about. Once again, moving a little bit more towards Scarlet and Violet as time moves on, as things are selling out on Pokemon Center, as this kind of big rush, Silver Tempest now is becoming the focus, as it's still available on Pokemon Center, and you can still get it under MSRP out on eBay and Pokemon Center or TCG Player. Definitely take advantage of that. Sword and Shield is still where it's at, guys. I think them last 7 sets of Sword and Shield are definitely your focal points right now. But as they sell out on Pokemon Center and as that price goes over $200, $250 per booster box or per product, depending on which ones you're buying, I would definitely be considering looking at some of the Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet products, because that's where more people are going to turn to as price increases because of the pricing point. You can get in at a lower point, which means it's easier to sell the products, which means more people are there to have a market to be able to sell these particular products and cause organic growth and good successful growth on these products. So hopefully it's a good video, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you think that the economy can handle this and continue to grow and continue to have this big movement for Pokemon investing? Or do you think we're going to get to a point where inflation is going to finally push people over the edge, where we're going to have people leave this hobby or lose important things in their lives that they need to live? And that's a big factor you need to consider and discuss and think about when you're looking at how much money are you going to put into Pokemon yourself? How much money are you willing to put on a shelf in hopes that the economy holds together and that we don't end up in a big depression or even worse than that? So all things to consider. Definitely some good talking points and thinking points for you. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. I'm always glad to hear what you have to say about it. Other than that, if you do like this kind of content, as always, make sure you check the 2 videos at the end. Last but not least, make sure you hit that subscribe, hit that notify, and last but not least, hit that like. And we will see you next time here on Northwoods TCG.